Hello, I am Thorchlisk, and today I'm going to be talking through the D&D character sheet. This is going to be a quick overview. There are some things in here that are too complicated to talk about in this video, and I'll go over them in their own separate video. I am using the D&D Beyond layout, so if you have a different layout, then some of the locations of things will be different, but the way they work and some of the logic behind them should still be mostly the same. So let's get started. First of all, we have the top right here. This is where you're going to put some basic character details, such as your character's name, their race, their level, their class, and their background. Next up, we have the ability scores. And yes, I put in a sheet protector. I filmed it without, and it was too loud, too crinkly. Anyways, the ability scores. These are the basis for a lot of the numbers that are going to be on your character sheet. There are 6 different basic ability scores. You have strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Next up, you have saving throws and skills. So the saving throws, there's one for each ability score, and this is basically your reflex reaction to something happening. So if a fireball goes off near you, that would be a dexterity saving throw to try to avoid the fire. The skills are mostly used outside of combat. These are the kinds of things you do when you're talking to someone, if you're trying to track an animal, or if you're trying to find a secret door, or if you're trying to remember something about magic. Those sorts of things are all taken up in these skills. Now, there's too many for me to go through them right now. I might make a separate video going through them. With each ability, so with each skill, so for example, right here is nature. You have nature, and then over here it says int, which stands for intelligence, which means that if I was going to make a nature check, it would be using my intelligence. Probably. Sometimes your DM will call for a different ability score than is there. Follow what your DM says. Next up, we have initiative, and we have armor class. Initiative is how quickly you will go in combat, basically. At the start of a combat, you'll roll for initiative, and whoever gets the highest roll goes first, and then you go down until the person who got the lowest initiative roll. Your armor class is how hard it is to hit you. So if someone makes an attack against you, they'll roll their attack, add their attack modifier, and if it matches or exceeds your armor class, you've been hit. The next section here is defenses, and this is where you'd put any special defenses. So for this one, this character has resistance to cold damage, so that's where you'd put it. And then you have the inspiration slot. Inspiration's a little complicated, so I'll go over it in a separate video. And then down from there you have proficiency bonus. Down from there you have your ability save DC. So some classes or subclasses give you abilities that have a saving throw associated with them. And that's where you'd write in the difficulty for that saving throw. And then you have your speed, which is how fast you can go. You can have a walking speed, a flying speed, a swimming speed, or a burrow speed. And that's where you'd write that in. Then we have the health, your maximum hit points, your current hit points, and your temporary hit points. And I'll talk about temporary hit points again in a separate video. You have your death saves. If you get 3 failures, you die. Then you have your hit dice. You get 1 hit die per level, and the type of die depends on what your class is. All the way from wizards and sorcerers with a D6, and up to barbarians with a D12. Then you have your proficiencies in languages. This is where you'd put in your proficiencies in armor and weapons and tools, and then it's where you also put in your languages. And then down here, you have your actions. And your actions, it details basically everything you can do inside of combat. Outside of combat, you'll mostly be using your skills, but inside of combat, you'll basically be using any of those actions. Although 90% of the time, unless you're a spellcaster, I suppose, you're going to be making attacks. And this right here is where you'll put in your weapon attacks and your cantrips. So over here you have the name of the weapon or the cantrip. Right here you'll have your to hit bonus. Right here you'll have the type of damage it does as well as the amount of damage it does. And then right here you will have anything special that's important to know about the weapon. And that is basically everything on here. This here is a section that not everybody uses. This is where you put your passive perception, passive insight, and passive investigation. But not everyone uses those, so they may not become relevant. Moving on to the second page. Up here at the top is the same stuff as was at the top of the other page. This section here is your features and traits. And that is a really important section, one you'll probably refer to several times. Because on your first page, you may have a spot that says the name of an ability and a very basic bit of what it does. But if you want to know exactly how it works, you'd come here and you'd look at what it says exactly about what it does, and then you'd be able to figure out if it works a way you think it should, or the way you think it does. And then the second section down here, this is all of your equipment. All of the stuff you have. This here is where your money goes. And this section here is how much weight you're carrying and how much weight you can carry without becoming encumbered. However, most groups do not use encumbrance, but if you do, that's where you'd find that information. Next, we have the background page. And this page, most of this stuff, these 3 pages, for the most part, are about the game mechanics itself, about what you can actually do in the game. This is about your character, what kind of a person they are. This is less about what your character can do and more about who they are. So this is where you have things like what they look like, the allies and organizations your character's a part of, anything extra you want to write down, your backstory, and this is where you'd write down some of your character traits. And along the top here is where you'd put down some basic information about your character, such as their gender, their age, their eyes, their hair, their weight, any of that stuff that you want to put in. And this page, honestly, you could leave this page blank and it wouldn't change your gameplay that much. But I think it's much more fun if you have some stuff on there. And then the 4th page is all of your spells and spellcasting type stuff. And I'm going to go over spellcasting in a different video. But for now, just know that it starts up at the top with your cantrips, and then it goes down with your 1st level, 2nd level, 3rd level, going down for however many spells you have at this level. And then, up at the top here, it has your spellcasting class. Then it has your spellcasting ability. Then it has your spell save DC, as well as your spell attack bonus. And your spell save DC is basically the same as your ability save DC, except for your spells. So a lot of spells require a saving throw, and that's the number they'd have to reach or exceed. So now that you know where things are and kind of what they mean, go out and make your character, and I will see you next time.